today's Financial Times has a number of references to the discussion that we had last time on Monday. If you might have noticed, there are several letters to the editor, and Martin Wolf has a column about this. But it more or less says the same thing that we talked about on Monday. What's new is on the last page of the market section, which is the second section of the paper. There's a headline: Fed's expected QE move weighs on the dollar. And let me just read you the first paragraph here. And says, global stocks rallied and the dollar came under heavy selling pressure amid growing expectations that the U.S. Federal Reserve would announce a third quarter of quantitative easing and that Germany's constitutional court would rule in favor of Europe's new bailout fund. At the time they went to press, they didn't know that the court had ruled, in fact, in favor of the new bailout fund, that it's legal. So that Germany is going to do its part. There's some reservations about that, but it basically went through. So the issue that I want to talk about today is this business about the Fed's expected QE move. QE stands for quantitative easing. And this is a word that is basically not in the textbooks yet, because it was invented during the period that I'm showing in the charts up here that are being projected. This chart is showing you the balance sheet of the Fed, of the Federal Reserve Bank of the United States during the crisis, and it starts in January of '07. And it goes through March of 2010, so it doesn't come up to the present. And so it's showing you the financial crisis. There are these two vertical lines. The first one is the collapse of Bear Stearns in March of '08, and the second one is the collapse of AIG and Lehman Brothers in September of '08. And this is the balance sheet of the Fed. Up on the top, you can see assets. So they're plotted as positive numbers, and on the bottom, liabilities of the Fed, and so I'm plotting them as negative numbers. So it really is a balance sheet, and you can see both sides of the balance sheet in this picture, and you can also see time. And you can see how the Fed responded to the crisis. In fact, the crisis began back here, okay, in August of 2007. And the first thing the Fed did was to mess with interest rates. It lowered interest rates from 5% to 2% in various stages, okay, trying to help, okay. We talked about that last time, right, how the Fed might try to move try to be more elastic. So it's trying to help by moving interest rates. It moved all the way down, and still in March of '07, Bear Stearns failed. Okay, and when it failed, a lot of other bad things started to happen. So the Fed changed its strategy, and you can sort of see that in the asset side of the balance sheet up there. The dark blue is Treasury bills. So the Fed, before the crisis, was holding Treasury bills as assets and issuing currency as its liabilities. That's what the dark blue is on the liabilities. So it's basically Treasury bills and currency and tiny bits of other stuff. Okay, but it's basically Treasury bills and currency. And after Bear Stearns, you can see they sold off the Treasury bills, and or at least half of them, and they lent the proceeds to broker-dealers and all kinds of people, direct lending to banks and to dealers to try to support financial markets. And that worked, and there's no change in liabilities. You can see that was just selling Treasury bills and taking the proceeds and lending them out. Okay, but that wasn't enough. And after Lehman and AIG collapsed in September of 2008, they went even farther. In order to lend to the market, they actually expanded their own liabilities. They expanded their balance sheet on both sides. That was the original QE. QE1, for someone of a certain age like me, okay, refers to an ocean liner, you know, the Queen Elizabeth.